entrepreneurs, and professionals of Tampa Bay. Welcome to your hour for getting the information, the tools, and the connections for elevating your business. Welcome to Getting the Edge with Kelly Wilson. And here's your host, Kelly Wilson.
Welcome to Getting the Edge. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson. We are filming at the great Genghis Khan restaurant, 3114 West Beta Bay. If you're in the area and you'd like to check out some delicious Mediterranean cuisine, stop by Genghis Khan and tell them that Edge sent you. Getting the Edge is a great opportunity to share stories. It's a great opportunity to bring business owners, business leaders from the community in to talk about their products, businesses and services, but it's also a great opportunity to really get to know them on a personal level and to learn from their trials and tribulations and their successes and failures, and we can learn so much from each other's journey, which is my main reason for providing the platform for Getting the Edge. So again, thank you so much for being with us today. For additional information on Edge Business Magazine, you can reach us at edgebusinessmagazine.com. You can view and look through all the previous magazine issues that have been published. And speaking of new magazines, our latest one just launched January. Make sure you check out the latest issue at edgebusinessmagazine.com. You can also subscribe, and you can get print and digital copy delivered right to your home address and email. So make sure you check it out and subscribe today. So again, a great opportunity to have great people in the studio and learn from in all different types of businesses and industries. And really excited to have Danny Troya with us today. Danny, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Danny is extremely talented, and especially in the hair department and styling and color. And I know from personal experience because he does my hair, and really excited. I actually need to visit you pretty soon and get things touched up. But for the most part, it's almost that time. But Danny's been great, and it's it's amazing to go with someone. And obviously, I think we all have our loyalties of people that we're close to. But when you are and at that point where you're looking for a new hairstylist, color specialist, I definitely highly recommend Danny. So almost 30 years now in business, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
And and congratulations on that. That is quite an accomplishment by itself. 30 years?
Yeah, I don't believe it sometimes how that I've done anything for 30 years.
Time goes so fast. It really does. And that's kind of another thing we talk about on the show a lot, is just kind of starting, because before you know it, so much time has passed. And the growth and the wisdom and just everything that, and a lot of clients, I'm sure, after 30 years, you're not really searching for clients. And I mean, I'm sure you welcome the new business, but it's a much different mentality 30 years in versus.
Well, it snowballs after a while where that word of mouth just keeps on going. And
we're going to talk a little bit about that too as we get into the show, because there's a lot of different people out there that are, whether it's a stylist business and from a hairdresser perspective, or if it's a new mobile massage studio, or any type of service-based industry where you have to build clientele. And I actually think, we all do that, whether it's even in magazine industry or whatever. We're all looking to build business. So, but from the service perspective especially, I want to talk about what it takes to build that, and just tips that you might be able to provide. But also want to mention before we get into that Danny is included in our most recent issue of Edge Business Magazine. So if you check it out, you can see some of the information about Danny and his great photo. I love that picture. So on the ad, we talk about freelance hairdresser, color specialist, and I like how you call yourself like a multi-dimensional color. So what exactly does that mean?
Well, any color, when I approach color doing hair, I like to look at what I might want to add to what we have already to make it look completely different. So it's not about starting over or taking everything out or going all one color. I like to see what I can add to what's there to make it look brand new.
And that's, I think, something more with today's trends, right? Like you're able to kind of do that and add and complement, use what's already there to complement each other, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And add it in. But years ago, didn't we more so just strip what was there and then Or
A lot of times that happens, yeah. And a lot of the trends now, it's okay. When they grow out, sometimes is when people get the most compliments on their hair once it's grown out for a couple of months, you know?
it is true. A lot of times I'll get, and I'm not blonde normally, but I'm happily share a lot of my brunette style photos. But sometimes I even forget I'm a blonde. I think because, for so many years you are a brunette, and then later in life you're a blonde, and sometimes you forget you're blonde. But anyway, my blonde will grow out, and someone will say, "Oh, I love your roots," or "I love that
Exactly.
contrast," and I think it's not supposed to be there.
Exactly.
But to others, and I think different, styles kind of come and go so quickly that, right? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
trends
They come and go, but I feel a little piece of every style sticks around.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There's always a little. You want to keep a little bit of what's going on, you know what I mean, of what happened, because, otherwise everybody's going to have the exact same style,
Right.
Somebody can have, long layers, short layers, one length, long one length,
It's interesting to look back, like in mine. I think for the first time recently, I did a TBT, kind of throwback
Right.
photos, and I did a collage of a lot of them, and I've had so many looks like over the years, which I think is pretty cool. And it's so funny. You look at some people over the years that have just kind of like never changed,
Right.
like they still have the same. But anyway, I think first, change is good. It's good to change up, and we'll talk a little bit more about that and color and just kind of how you are able then, I guess, to, I don't know, to figure out the contrast. It is truly is a gift. We all have our gifts. But I want to talk to you a little bit about where you're located and how people can get in contact with you. So you are currently off of Kennedy, or on Kennedy. You're in the Salon Lofts on Kennedy Boulevard. And you've kind of, through your 30 years, have been through a journey of owning your own salon and then kind of taking the transitions around that. So I want to talk a little bit about that. So you started off where? How long ago? Well, we talked 30 years, so where? Which location?
Oh, the first salon I ever worked at was at West Shore Mall.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun, and it didn't last very long, It wasn't my salon, but it just didn't take off, and like it should have. And then I went on to work at another salon after that for about 10 years. And then I opened my first salon, which was Salon Troya. And
Hence the last name.
There you go. And
where was that located?
that was located on Dale Mabry, north of Kennedy, over close to Sly.
Okay.
And in a strip center there. And it was very successful for a while, but it really shows you how you can get burned out as much as you might love an industry. When you're working as a business, it's totally different than working behind the chair.
Well, when you own the business, you're not just able to enjoy what you enjoy doing, right? Which is doing the hair and the color and have those relationships that you have with your clients.
Right.
Now you have to handle the back end of it.
Yep.
And unless you hired, I guess, somebody to take care of that piece for you, but as an owner, you're still overseeing that.
Absolutely, you're
So,
always doing that. So
I can see how that would.
For some people, it can be great, you know what I mean? It wasn't for lack of success or anything else. It was more of I'm not enjoying it anymore.
Right.
I'm not enjoying
That's tough.
doing hair every day, when it's taking the time away from my clients. So, I decided that I'm gonna just follow what I love to do, and that's standing behind the chair and doing hair.
Yeah. I think sometimes too, and from what I've heard from talking to many people over the years, is that depending too on the business and how big you want to build out, it's almost more profitable without the overhead. And
Absolutely. In some cases it is. You know what I mean? I heard, I've taken 1 million, going to different hair shows and stuff like that. I tend to kind of half and half. The classes that are available at the hair shows that I go to, there's business classes and there's, technique classes. So I tend to take a little bit of both, you know what I mean? And I really get a lot out of the business classes. And one time I heard that
that's nice that they offer both.
At least one person in every salon makes more than the owner does. And I can actually see that. I can actually see that happening as an owner when you realize your overhead and everything else, and people don't realize that sometimes you're compensating for the people that are not busy yet, because you're putting money into those people so that they can build.
Right.
You know, so when it's all said and done, sometimes, you know, your top stylist is making more than you are.
Right.
You know?
Well, and even
as an owner.
Right. As well, you still have your own business, even within another organization, because you're
always
an
have your
independent
own
contractor. So ultimately, it's still your
Exactly.
own business. In real estate, I was in real estate forever, and you know, even though you're 1099 and you kind of work under someone's name, you
Well,
know,
yeah, that's-
you have your own business within that firm.
That's one of the things I've always tried to explain to newer stylists or people that work for me and everything. It's your business. The busier you are, the more money you're going to make.
Right.
No one's controlling how much money you can make. So either whether you're getting a check from your salon at the end of the week, or
Right.
you're writing your own check, you're still your own business, because that check gets bigger as you get busier.
Right.
You know.
And I want to talk a little bit too on how long it takes to kind of to build, and how long. Do you remember kind of more so in the beginning on when you first started out? And
Yeah, it was boring, you know. But you have, you can only go, especially if you've been in the business for 30 years like myself. You didn't have social media when you started out. You
Right.
know, all you had is business cards and your feet, and a comfortable pair of shoes. So
Right.
that's basically how I built. Was you can only pass out so many cards, but it's paying your dues, it's waiting. And when you do have that one client, let's say you just have that one client a day, you want to make sure that client gets the best experience they've ever had. You don't want to overdo it, and that you don't want
Right.
to make them stay too long. Don't think you take too long, but you want to make sure that client gets a great experience, and they want to come back
Right.
in that 4 and that 6 weeks. Because if you're only getting one client a day, and that client comes back in 6 weeks, well, now in 6 weeks, now you have 2 clients
Right,
a day.
right.
In another 6 weeks, you have 3 clients a day.
you can start kind of
So
building.
that's how
right.
you see
You
your
start
client
building your
develop.
pipeline that way. Well, we're going to talk a lot more about that and how things have changed with beginning a business like that 30 years after now that social media is around. So stay tuned. We'll be back with more with Getting the Edge.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by TrueLeaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
Welcome back to Getting the Edge. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson, joined with Danny Troya, the amazing, talented hairstylist, color specialist for over 30 years now in the Tampa area, and very proud to call him my own as well. So thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
I'm really, really excited to be here with you, and again, sharing great stories of in all different business industries on growth and how we've gotten to where we are today. And we can all learn so much from each other. I know you see the commercials that air during the shows. We'd love to feature your business. So for more information, please reach out to info@edgebusinessmagazine.com. We'd love to talk with you about having your business featured. So we talked, we were right before the break, we talked a little bit about building a business and how things are different now 30 years later. And, again, I remember, I don't even know now how many years ago it might have been when I started in the real estate, sometime in the 90s. But different mentality, different mindset of how we built a business back then. So I want to focus, though, now on how has social media changed your business and with technology today?
Well, social media, it really it helps out by getting the word out a little quicker. Word of mouth.
You can show off your work too, right?
So you can show it off. You can put it online, put your pictures online. But at the same time, it's an extension of word of mouth, because your friends have friends and so on and so forth. And word of mouth, that's all social media really is. It's word of mouth. When you do something good and everybody puts it on, there's your word of mouth. It's just better than it was in the beginning, because you might have your girlfriends that you talk to on a regular basis, and you get a great haircut, great hairstyle, great color, and you're going to tell your friends. But now you put it on social media, it's telling every single one of your friends all at once.
Right. Yeah, it does all the work for you now, right?
Kind of, sort of.
Well, and I can imagine what used to take years to build, now you do, and really, you could probably be done in half the time. But I think that the longevity piece of that is what it really takes down to that individual. It's up to that individual to create that longevity piece, because otherwise.
Oh, it's a double-edged sword.
Right.
If you don't do a good job, that's how quick it's going to get out too.
Right.
So.
Oh, and yeah, right.
Yeah, that's the one good thing about social media, and in the long run, really, it's word of mouth. It's word of mouth. And from my experience, the best way to build a business is still with that individual client, that one-on-one experience that you're having in the salon with them. And when you see that a client is busy, and the client is getting to where they're going and they're looking good, you want to ask them to schedule their next appointment before they leave. That's the most important thing. And if they agree to scheduling their next appointment before they leave, ask them to schedule for the whole year. And now you're looking at your book down the road, and you're seeing longevity.
Now, from your type of service-based business, are there certain software applications that you use that have been a lifesaver in your business?
I have to say, salon software has been around longer than social media has. You know what I mean? And that really has been the best thing that's happened. It's made things a lot easier as far as scheduling appointments and sending reminders and
I can
everything
imagine
else
that
like
can
that.
do
It makes
everything
it
for
a
you.
lot easier, because it's it really is like a receptionist.
Right.
You know what I mean? The software I'm using now, is it all right to?
Yeah, no, please, if there's something that you like.
Vagaro, VAGARO.com.
Okay.
And it's a salon software, and it sends email reminders, it sends text reminders. You get them.
I am familiar with those.
It's a receptionist that you don't need. You know what I mean? And you can even run your credit cards through there as well. So it's a merchant processor as well. So it makes life a lot easier especially for the freelance stylist that is renting a chair or renting a loft, and they're doing everything themselves.
That's another great thing.
And it gives you the ability to have your clients book their own appointments as well.
Right, because you can go right on and book at any time.
Exactly.
And it's just amazing too, the convenience, and that with salon lofts and these other type of multi you know, I don't even know, what do you call that type of facility where it cuts costs down so much. I mean, you don't have to go and look for if you want to have your own business, you know, you don't necessarily have to go and find your own salon and the space and have all these additional costs. You can kind of, you know, go in and kind of partner in a sense with all these other individuals.
There's a lot of brands out there that do a lot similar to salon lofts. It's just like nowadays
that was a great idea.
They're just taking it to the limit, because renting a chair has been around since hairdressing has been around. You're either an employee of the salon or you're renting a chair, so it's been around forever. This is just taking it a little bit more to the next step, and each has its own little, you know, salon. Every person has their own little salon with all the equipment in there, and it's
God, they're
really
all over the country
individual.
now, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're doing very well.
That was a great idea. I don't know really the story behind it, but yeah, it's really revolutionized the way hairdressers can then have and build their business. What, and I guess too, there were just the relationships that you can make, but it's all great when you walk into one of those and everybody has their individual personalities kind of come to life, you know, versus for what they, I don't know. They, you know, they're all the individuality comes out. So it's great. Are you still working on yours?
Oh, always. It's a work in progress. It's always, you know, you're always looking at your little room. What else can I do for it? You know, and you know, but you know, as a former salon owner and everything else like that, you realize that bottom line is your client wants to see a clean place and a good job.
Right.
You know, they're not always noticing, you know, I could change the color of the place and it'll be like 3 months and people won't even notice that I changed the color. You know what I mean? Because they're just coming back for what they want, you know.
Let me ask you, you know, for your opinion and with all your experience, what is the best? Like if somebody is thinking about starting their own hairdressing business today or being a color specialist or any type in a service type industry, or I guess more so, and I don't know how they differ so much, but would you suggest that they find, like, that they go into more of a salon lofts where they can rent their own space, or do they pay a rent fee, or what are some of the different options? Like, what would you recommend?
Well, honestly, if somebody's starting out, it's really not for them, because, you know, it's not the cheapest thing in the world is to start paying your own, because it's basically owning your own salon from the get-go. The best way to start is to find a salon where you fit in, where you feel good, and you work as an assistant. You try to find the hottest salon in town, and you find the hottest hairdresser in town, and you assist for them. You work for them. It's you know, people come out of school and they have their licenses. They're so eager to get their hands in the hair, but you're best to learn from somebody who is where you want to be. You know what I mean? It may not be the direction you want to go. There might be a different, but you're always going to learn from somebody that's where you want to be. When you learn from somebody who's got a clientele that is, you know, they have a house and a car and a family and everything else. They're making the money you want to make. Go work for that person and learn how they got there. You may not want to get there the same way, but you're going to learn a lot.
And that's how we actually originally met, I think, and it was that common interest with Ernest, which was a gentleman, and he's not even in the Tampa area anymore.
No, he's living in Atlanta, and
but we originally met in Carrollwood. This was 20 plus years ago, maybe at least around 25, probably.
That was my mentor. Yep.
So that's interesting when, as you started to tell that story, that memory kind of came back of how we, and then just so happened to years later connect and had that, you and I, and then had that kind of commonality of Ernest all those years ago, which was, so yeah, that worked for you.
Right. You know, and that a lot of times that'll start that word of mouth process, because, you know, you're working under this person, you're learning under this person, but then when you get to a point when you're on your own and you get your own chair and it works out that way, their clients, they start to send you because they know how busy they are, you know, how busy their stylist is. So they said, if you can't get in with him, you should call his
protege. Yeah, the protege.
Exactly, and it kind of works out that way.
Right. That's interesting. And then I think I'm trying to remember the story that you told me, and it even seems like it took you a while to get in with Ernest at the time. Like you were very persistent in trying to get a chair in the same place.
Well, I was trying to get a chair in the salon. It was Infinity Hair International, long time ago. It was a great salon, awesome salon. It was nice to get. It wasn't my start. Like I said, I worked at a salon in
West Shore
called On Stage at the time. But after that, I went to right there to Infinity Hair International. It was a great salon, great people there.
Wow, it brings back a lot of memories.
Yeah, exactly. Owner there was Ray Caballero, and I went in there and they told me that it was full. That I really wanted to work there, and there was no space for me to be had because I was that guy that had the license that wanted to get my hands in the hair, and I was a little disappointed because I couldn't get in there. And as I was leaving, Ernest got my attention. He says, "Listen, I know that there's possibly going to be an opening here in the next couple of months, and I just lost my assistant, and I could use an assistant like you for a little while." So that's how it all started. And I said, hey, I'll go ahead and do that, if it's going to get me eventually in the chair. And it worked out great.
Well, it's just that persistence, and that you have to start somewhere, and everyone does, and it's just that relationship then led to ultimately where you are today.
Exactly.
But every, I think, foot in the door, so to speak, or every time, and things, you're not always going to get told yes all the time. I mean, my goodness, I can't even count all the times I've been told no in my business, or there's not an opportunity.
Exactly.
And just some persistency before you know it. Here you are, and 30 years have passed. It's crazy. It is. It really is. But I want to talk a lot. You are from the Tampa area, Florida native. You don't come across so many, especially right. And so I want to talk about that and some of your upbringing. But we're going to take a quick break before we do, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with Getting the Edge.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by True Leaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
Welcome back to Getting the Edge. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson. Thank you so much for being with us today. Again, really excited to be here. If you've missed any part of the show, please hit rewind, go back, and make sure you check out the beginning. I've been joined with Danny Troya, who is a great stylist, hair color specialist, and my own stylist. But he's been in the business over 30 years, and has just a great, array. Is that the right word? I do make up a lot of my own words here on the show, but just, really, a lot of great wisdom that you've acquired over the 30 years, and I'm trying to pull some of that out as we can share tips over the years, and a lot, different industries you can apply to different, we can all take a little bit of something from everyone, and that's another reason and another why I'm so happy to be able to share so many stories here on the show. So we talked, you're born and raised in Tampa, right? So Tampa native, your mom, so your mom was in New York, Ybor City, and was a cigar roller.
Well, my mom was born in New York, raised in Ybor City. My grandmother was a cigar roller.
Okay.
My grandmother was a cigar roller, and
she must have some amazing stories.
Oh yeah. My grandmother's, she's passed away a long time ago. My mom, she suffers from Alzheimer's, unfortunately,
sorry.
and my dad takes care of her there at the house. They still live in the same house that I was raised in, so.
You're very lucky.
True West Tampa.
But I talk to people, and both my parents are passed now, and it's been years since, oh my goodness, I can visualize the home that I grew up in. Actually, there were two main homes through my childhood, but I can't imagine what that feeling would be like to go back and see your bedroom that you once slept in as a kid.
And I can see it
and then your
day.
kids can see that, and
right?
experience the home you grew up in. I just can't even imagine. That's very lucky.
Yeah. I'm fortunate.
Most definitely.
Very fortunate to be raised in the family that I've been raised in. So.
And enjoy every moment because at some point we have memories, and those moments are really special.
Love this town.
Absolutely. So your dad is a Cuban immigrant. He came and he fled Castro's regime. I've told a few stories from Rob Canson. Actually, our latest one with Dr. Crespo's family fled Cuba as well, and wow, some great stories.
Oh yeah.
He
loves talking about it. He
I'm
still
sure.
has a lot of. Whenever he gets connected with his other Cuban friends, that's all they just love to talk about, like if it was yesterday. But it's all about how it was before.
Right. Now, has he been back? Has he ever been back since?
He went back one time, and interesting story that he had, that he went back and actually one of his neighbors was still there living in he wanted to see what his old house was like. And of course everything is kind of dilapidated and old and everything else, but you don't get rid of anything there because you're not going to get another one, Oh,
wow.
So he went to his house, and one of his neighbors was actually living in his old house. And he went into, he's looking, it's like a time warp, he said. This is how he explained it, kind of like going in a time machine back there, and everything was exactly as it was, a little more worn out and everything, but everything was there. So
wow.
He went into the kitchen, and there's a rocking chair that he used to sit in, and he used to look out the window, and he loves to eat. He's still the same way. He still loves to eat fruit. He has his paring knife and eats all this exotic fruit that he loves to do, And he went and sat in that chair. This is, after 40, 50 years of not being there,
And that chair is still sitting in the kitchen.
The chair is still there, and as he reached over into the drawer where his paring knife was, and it was still there. He took it home. He was able, hopefully nobody's listening, but he snuck his paring knife home with him, because it was still there,
That's an amazing story.
So that's how they're living there,
Wow. So you you originally attended, you went to Christ the King, Pierce Junior High, and you graduated from Thomas Jefferson High School. Is that right?
Yes.
And then, so you tell me a little bit about your welding experience with your dad's machine shop. Now, did he own his own business?
My dad still owns his own business.
Okay.
He's 86 years old and still operates his machine shop in Ybor City. So,
wow.
So he's still doing that, and that was the family business. My dad used to work at Westinghouse, which was on Gandy and West Shore.
Okay.
And my brother and I were at
I was just going to ask if you had brothers and sisters.
My brother and I were. My brother, he's a machinist, and his name is Jerry, just like my dad.
Okay.
And he works at the machine shop. You know, he's kept the family business going. You know what I mean? My dad's.
Well, thank goodness for Jerry.
Exactly. My dad. Yeah, exactly.
I know that can be tough. I've talked to a lot of families.
Oh yeah, it's great. My dad's 86 years old and still works 7 days a week at the machine shop. So
wow.
It's, you know, he loves it. So. As I was saying, the Westinghouse moved. They moved to another state, and my brother and I were at Christ the King elementary school, and you know, they didn't want to change us or move us or anything else like that. So that's when my dad decided to open his
he just
first
said, I'll
machine
just
shop.
open my own business.
He just opened his own business and was in Drew Park for a few years until he found this property in Ybor City, and he's been there ever since.
That's great. So what year do you have an idea of what year that might have been that he opened it up?
It had to be in the 70s.
Oh, wow.
Early 80s when he moved to Ybor, you know. And I mean, his first machine shop when Westinghouse closed down or moved to another state was our backyard over there in West Tampa when you weren't allowed to do it, but he stayed there until, you know, he had a couple of machines in the backyard that he would do a little work there.
Oh, wow.
Until one neighbor complained.
Things were probably a lot different too in the late 60s and into the 70s where you could kind of get away with more of that stuff.
Exactly. I remember, I mean, it never snows in Florida, but the one year back in the 70s, or I think it was like maybe 1979 or 80 or something, when it actually snowed in Florida. My dad
Are you throwing tarps over the equipment?
No. My dad took one of his tarps that he uses for welding, and he left it on the floor so that he could collect some snow for me and my brother to play with.
Oh,
you know
interesting.
What I mean? So, but that was the last he had the shop over there. You know, that's how long ago he was working in his backyard, and then he started the machine shop. So yeah.
Wow. Well, good for him.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Jerry. You know, it's what an accomplishment, though, to have the machine shop that long, and and to have, you know, some of the, you know, your brother then helping with that.
Oh yeah, my brother's been with him since the beginning. You know.
Now, do you have? Is it just you and Jerry as far as your sibling? Do you have any others as well?
Just me and my brother. Yeah.
Okay. So that's great. So he plans to then continue that business on?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's a staple there in Ybor City. It's not going to go
anywhere.
Well,
and it's great that that you were kind of able to go on and explore your own passions of what you wanted to do instead of feeling the obligation of working in the family business. Because again, I talk to people all the time, and I know I've heard and been, you know, around many stories where there is a lot of animosity and just problems within the family because of. I may start doing that to my children too if they don't step up and like want to take over the family business someday. But no, I'm kidding. Kind of.
Yeah. Well, when I was at Jefferson High School, they had a welding program. They still have a welding program, which was my welding teacher was Jack Mills, which is interesting because my son, who also attended Jefferson High School, graduated the year that Jack Mills retired. So I was able to see my old welding teacher when my son was graduating on his graduation day.
It's another benefit of growing up or living
up in Tampa.
Right.
Yeah, my son went to
and
the
still
same
living
high
as an
school I
adult,
did.
where you did as a child.
Yep. So I took welding. It was a very extensive, great program. They released a lot of really good welders from Jefferson High School, and I went right from there working with my dad, and I just. It just wasn't for me at the time. It just wasn't for me at the time, and I chose to choose a career doing hair.
No, and I think it's great that you followed your passion, your dreams. I mean, that's a lot of people do not, because they do feel that obligation to follow, either follow the family footsteps or just what society has kind of led us up to do, and not necessarily go after our own business. So again, one of the reasons that we're here sharing these stories is to hopefully push or just let other people know that other people have done it.
Right.
And kind of followed the dreams that, because I know it's tough, especially, but it sounds like they were supportive overall.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that makes a big difference,
Yeah, my parents they're irreplaceable, They really, support everything I do, and they're always behind me.
It's so funny when we talk about you being like in the business now 30 years, and you look so young. Like you should be like probably like I don't know, mid 30s or something. It's kind of funny when we talk about I don't know, like.
Yeah, that normally the only time people can figure it out is when I'm hanging out with my boys, my two sons and my little girl, you know what I mean? They're like, this guy can't be too young. He's got a 24-year-old son, you know?
Yeah, it's a great feeling to have like older children when you're out with, years ago, well, in the last so many years, I would hang out with my son, who will be almost 29 this year.
Right.
And people, I can't really figure out the relationship initially.
I'll divulge and say I'll be the big 5-0 this year in September.
Oh my goodness, really?
So yep. I think the business keeps me young, though.
Absolutely. Well, let me just, not that, I'm just a few years behind you. Luckily, you're a few years ahead. Thank you for that. But, it's, yes, I think it has kept you young. And it's just amazing. I don't know, when we were growing up and younger, you looked at older families and, I don't know, they just seem so much older. And now that we're almost that age, or we're aging, we're not. Like, I don't know. It's just... something's on our side of good genes or something to where it's keeping us younger.
I think it's the lifestyle, you know what I mean? Growing up, my dad would say, I work so hard, I don't have to work out. You know what I mean? So people have changed their attitude about exercise and
Right, that makes some sense.
And
yeah,
eating right.
That makes sense. I think we have and then everything's so bad for us anymore. So maybe a lot of the times we are staying away from maybe some things that, I don't know. But
a little more conscious, I guess, you know what I mean? Aware.
I'd like to try to be.
Yeah.
So. Well, we're going to talk. I'm going to get even more a little personal with you and kind of find out some tips and that you're going to share with us. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back more with Danny Troya on Getting the Edge.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by Trulieve on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
Welcome back to Getting the Edge. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson. Thank you again for being with us today. We are excited to be here and excited just about everything in general. Check out edgebusinessmagazine.com for more information on all of our products and services. Really thankful to our sponsors. We're thankful to Genghis Khan Restaurant, which is where we film Getting the Edge. I'm excited to be here again with you today, and really thankful for WeBeam TV. Definitely check them out for all of their great shows and lineup. Again, WeBeamTV.com. So, and again, I'm sure you see the commercials that air during the show. We'd love to feature your business. So definitely reach out to us if you're interested in a new way to have your business featured at info@edgebusinessmagazine.com, or if you'd like some information on being a guest, we'd love to talk to you. Again, info@edgebusinessmagazine.com. So really excited to learn. Again, Danny Troya, 30 years in the freelance hairdresser type color specialist. My personal stylist as well. Again, congratulations on 30 years. And 30 years in any industry is absolutely amazing. So we've talked a lot about the show on just how things have changed and how getting clients and building a business has changed. And I wanted to. So this is kind of my favorite part of the show, where I get to ask a lot of the same questions that I ask a lot of the different guests. It's kind of cool to gauge how everybody gauges things a little differently. But so we talked about you growing up in Tampa, and goodness, you're going to be. So when are you going to be 50?
September 23rd.
Wow. I mean, I can't believe like you're going to be 50. Not that that's old, because I'm just a few years behind you. Yeah. I'm going to joke. It's always nice when people are older than you, especially as you get older and you like seem to be the older one around most of the time. It's always great genes when you've got like older people around you. So if you could go back in time, let's say 25 years, and if you could give your younger self advice 25 years ago, what would that advice be?
Probably stick with doing hair and not go into a business. Not that it was a bad experience, because every experience you build on that.
We learn from it.
How would I find out that I didn't like it unless I did it? You know what I mean?
Well, you wouldn't have, honestly, and had you not, you'd probably always be wondering, what if I had?
Exactly. I don't want to ever have that in my mind.
Right.
I did have a salon, you know what I mean, and it was successful, but
it did really well. Well, it's a lot, like you said, you weren't able to enjoy what
exactly. I mean,
what you enjoy.
It's a passion. It's a passion that I have,
right,
that I love to do hair.
I think with any industry, even with Edge, for so many years, as Edge will be 6 years old in September, and just I tell you though, as a business owner, a lot of the times we average close to we work a lot. It's like kind of one of the jokes that you hear sometimes. An entrepreneur will work 80 plus hours to avoid work for themselves, to avoid working 40 hours for someone else, and it's almost kind of true, but no, we do. I literally average 90 to 100 hours a week, but it's not like work, because we love it. But you can, if you're not doing things right and taking care of yourself, you can get to burnout mode. Absolutely. And that's where you kind of have to then you take a step back and evaluate where you are and how you proceed forward. So that's kind of exactly what you did, and you took a step back and thought, okay, I am not happy with this, and it's all about how I need to be, what's going to make me happy.
Absolutely.
And it's about the longevity. If you want to continue doing something that you love to do, then what steps do I need to take in order for that to happen?
Right.
So, and then you implement those steps. I think too, a lot of times people will stay, they make a decision, and they stay with that decision from there on out.
That's right.
And a lot of times, I love everything happens for a reason. I live by that. But a lot of times that reason is not necessarily what's in plain sight. That reason can be maybe of the experience that you get from getting out of certain situations. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, best advice you've ever been given. So is there something someone said to you once that just really stuck out to you?
Well, I guess there would be other examples as well, depending on, in a business sense or in a creative
business,
sense.
personal, just in life in general.
Well, this was like one of the most interesting, advice that I ever got as a hairdresser, when you're approaching doing hair. And it was at a hair show, and the guy said, approach a haircut by looking at it and take off what doesn't belong. And it made so much sense to me, you know what I mean?
It does, actually.
Just take off what doesn't belong. Look at what doesn't belong and
remove
do that.
it, right.
And I approach everything like that.
That's interesting.
You know?
I think a lot of times we hear things when we're supposed to hear them too, and sometimes somebody might give us advice earlier on, but it just doesn't sink in with us until a little bit later. Somehow we retrieve that because it's relevant and at the time, and then anyway we can apply it at different times of our life. I always say you get there when you get there, but you had to hear that at the right moment, and it kind of stuck with you. To this day, that's great advice. And again, I think we can utilize different tips in our trade secrets in all different types of business. You'd mentioned, because we talk about that. So is there one lesson that has been the toughest for you to learn over the years? From personal or from a business standpoint?
Yeah. I think that if you're constantly chasing happiness, you'll never find it. You have to choose to be happy, because if you're always, if you choose to be happy, you'll be happy in whatever situation you're in. But if you're constantly looking for something to make you happy, whether it's a job, whether it's an amount of money or a friendship or a relationship, whatever, you're never going to find it. You have to be happy within yourself in order to get anything else. And you'll find that once you make that decision to be happy, everything else just kind of falls into place too. So
happiness is a choice, right?
Yep, happiness is a choice.
No, that is great advice. If let's say you were just going to start your business today, what would you do differently? I guess when you're looking at 30 years, that's kind of I don't know if that's a tough question or not, but if you were just starting out today, what might you do?
Well, if I was just starting out as a hairdresser, I think I'd probably do the same thing. I think a lot of people make
something good.
I think a lot of people make the mistake of wanting too much too soon. You know what I mean?
I think especially in the millennial, I think mind frame, instant gratification.
I can't. It's invaluable, the fact that I went and I chose to. It really wasn't a choice. It was actually, I kind of fell into it when I explained that I tried to work at a salon I wanted to work at, and they didn't have any room, so I ended up assisting, and that's where I learned that. But I didn't choose to do that at the time. It just kind of fell in my lap. But now I look back on it, and that would definitely be the advice that I give anybody, is to go work for somebody that's where you want to be and learn from that person.
Well, and I think it's interesting as we can reflect back. Sometimes our path has taken us down certain ways and led us, down different canals, so to speak, or whatever. But for a reason, it was because of that path or something that happened that might have pushed us into a certain situation. That ultimately, as we reflect back, was the best thing that could have been. Somebody had said the other day, and I saw it was. Actually, it was Miley Cyrus, but she was being interviewed, and she said something about life never works out the way that I plan it, but it always seems to be better than what I thought. And I just thought that's really cool, and it's true. We can strategize and plan as much as we want, but life kind of takes us down its own path. Mm-hmm. But if we can actually look back and reflect, ultimately it worked out the way it was supposed to, or better than when we would have thought. Anyway. Decided to throw that Miley little quote in I heard recently. What is your definition of success today?
Definition of success. I think
from a personal or business standpoint.
I think it goes right back to being happy.
Yeah.
If you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm happy, I think you found success no matter where you are in your business, in your professional life.
Right. That's great advice, too. What might people be surprised to know about Danny Troya?
That I am an avid golf player.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not great. I'm not great, but I love it. It's what I like to do when I'm not doing hair, and it's kind of different for hairdressers, you know what I mean? But it's something that I love to do on the side.
And you mentioned how many years now? You mentioned your wife, and how many years?
We've been married. It'll be 9 years.
And what is
this
her
year.
name again? I know.
Marianne.
Okay, I wasn't going to pronounce that right, so I'm glad you said. And how many years now?
It's gonna be 9 years this year. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that
Thank
too.
you very
Congratulations
much.
on everything. And again, 30 years in the business. That's quite an accomplishment. And you mentioned. We talked about, you'll enjoy golfing. Are there other things that you do to quiet your mind?
Well, this is something that I just started doing recently, because my brother, he's working at the machine shop, and he's got, he's doing very well. And recently he's needed a little help, and I don't work on Mondays, and, I could easily open my book on Mondays and just do hair 6 days a week, but then we'd be talking about burning out again, like we did a little earlier, and so my brother asked me to go help him a few weeks ago, and it just started every Monday. It started going every Monday, and I just enjoy that because it's time that I get to spend with my brother, and it's doing something with my hands that's not the same thing I do every single day, so it keeps you fresh.
It's a piece of your father. It's a piece of your family,
it's a piece of the legacy. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that I commend you for that. I think that's great, and I think it probably will end up being therapeutic for you in a sense.
No, it really is. It really is.
So again, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your story. It's been great to, we've known each other for quite a few years, but it's great to have an opportunity to get to know you even better.
I appreciate it.
How can people get in touch with you? So what's your main phone number?
It's 813-243-9898.
Okay, so you can...
I use that for personal, for business.
You can text, you can call.
Whatever. I prefer when somebody's making an appointment with me, just text me. I'll get back.
Okay.
If I don't get back right away, it's because I have a client in the chair.
And he is located at 4545 West Kennedy Boulevard at the Salon Lofts there. Again, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank
Appreciate
you for having me.
Thank you. And check out edgebusinessmagazine.com in the meantime, and we'll see you next week on Getting the Edge. Have a great day. Thanks.